Hello and welcome back to another behind the scenes edition of Animal Crossing Nancy Drew. My name is Charity from Chaz, and today we're going to be doing Shadow of the Water's Edge, which is game number 23, which is so cool. It's such a good game. Unfortunately, at the time of filming, I don't have the same Rio Amiibo mods, which is such a shame because this would have been the perfect game to put them in. But it is what it is. So without further ado, let's get into it. So just like last time, we're just going to head on down to the airport and we're going to go to Harv's Island. And the first person that we're going to tackle is Miwako. So Miwako, if you played the game, then you know that Miwako stays in the lobby of the ryokan, as she is the receptionist. Back when I started doing my Animal Crossing Nancy Drew series, I really focused on building whole rooms. So like in Secrets Can Kill, I built all of Maxine's diner, which was really enjoyable and I really loved it. But I find that as I move further along in the series, I really have been focusing more so on what is directly inside the shot rather than whole rooms. And like this does help with shuffling in more iconic set pieces to make each character more noticeable, as opposed to just the stuff that regularly sits alongside the character. I really could have built just about every set from this game, as Animal Crossing being a Japanese game series really makes furnishing a Japanese game super convenient. But the one thing that I can't get an item for is a robotic cat. So if Suki happens to be a dinosaur, let's just ignore that. I really loved how at random points during the game, you walk into the reception area and you see the other guests leaving. I thought that was a really cool touch that Her Interactive put in, and it really made you feel like you weren't the only person in the ryokan until you were the last person in the ryokan. Next up, we're going to do Rentaro. I really like his little shack out in the garden. It just feels really cozy. And like the whole garden just feels like a really safe place in the ryokan. Like nothing really bad ever happens there, even if there are a couple of spots where you hear the spooky noises over the EVP, but otherwise it's like really tranquil. And I really loved Rentaro's bonus puzzles where you can just sit and complete the Sudoku, the nonograms and the renograms. I am definitely a nonogram kind of person. I feel like the bonus games and like optional content really just enrich your experience in the game. Like I don't take a lot of holidays myself, especially not with the Pandemic Lovato on. So playing a Nancy Drew game for me is kind of like taking a small break from like real life. And sometimes I'll just load up a game and spend some time there, talk to the characters, play the mini games. Take for instance in Warnings at Waverly, you can play Snack Shop or you can do games with Leela or you can play the matching game on the computer, and it's just really nice and relaxing and really adds to the atmosphere. Oh, and choosing an expression for the photos is always really fun. And unfortunately I couldn't, but I really would have loved to have used Rentaro's deer face for the photo, but sadly there weren't any expressions that even compared. Next up we're gonna do Takai. But you know what I really wish had been longer in the game? The trapped bird speech. Just kidding, obviously. But real talk, the speech skip feature would have been so good to have in this game. Like, if you aren't multitasking while she talks, then you're really just wasting a whole half hour. But, you know, I feel like Takai really would have enjoyed playing Midnight in Salem because, like, it's basically a 6-hour click-through movie. Someone commented on one of my Animal Crossing Nancy Drew posts on Reddit, and they said something along the lines of, can't wait for you to do Midnight in Salem because you'll put more effort into it than Her Interactive did. And honestly, that just sent me into orbit. Like, I think about that comment so much. And like, I will unfortunately have to play Mid again when that time comes, because I've only played it once when it first released. So pray for me please when we get to that end of the series. I can't say I'm looking forward to it. Next up we've got Yumi over at the bento stand. I really wish we could have heard more about Bess, George and Yumi's adventures. Like, we know that they hang out obviously and that they go shopping, but I just would have loved to hear more about them hanging out. And I also love that they got to interact with Savannah and Logan. Logan's initial phone calls are really such a highlight of the game. How he just hangs up on you so much. Also, Logan and Bess together forever. I don't care that he's a spy. I just really want them to be together. Like, they were so cute. Even if I kind of think that Logan buying Bess clothing at the first date was a bit weird. Don't know if I would like that, but... And if we can have Savannah back in Ghost of Thornton Hall, I'm sure that we can get Logan back somehow. Next up, we're gonna do the old baths. I absolutely adore this whole story with Kasumi and Takai and the daughters, and the whole situation of when Kasumi was alive versus after, when they're all feeling so much guilt. And then not to mention Kasumi's letters to Marianne, which tell such a compelling story on how she felt while she was still alive and towards the end of her life. As well as like the whole discussion on culture shift being such a well executed theme during the game. And like, I know that other games have themes to them, like the only one that comes to mind for me right now now is Loss in the Deadly Device, which is really well done, but I just think that this game was so good for the theme. Oh, and I might just add, the final nonogram puzzle is so well executed. Like, obviously it's such a horrible puzzle because it takes so long and it's so hard to do, even though I really like nonograms. But the fact that the game absolutely wears you out with this horrible, tedious puzzle, and then you get that little reward, and then bam, you've just got a jump scare. It's so well done. Next up, we're just going to build Yumi's apartment. I wasn't really sure which scene to do for Nancy, as there are so many good candidates. Like, I could have done the Chinko parlor, or her room at the ryokan, or the modern bath at the ryokan, but I really just love Yumi's apartment. It is so pink and fun. I really liked doing the fashion minigame on Yumi's computer too with the phone contact images. I thought that was so fun. And I only just learned how to do bonus content on regular content games, so I tested it out on this game, and you get more items to dress up with, which is really fun. Another thing I love about Yumi's apartment is the night that Nancy stays there, and you have the whole like window haunting that goes down, but this game just really did consistent hauntings so well. Like, just when you're feeling a little bit safer than before, bam, they hit you with another haunting. For the last photo, we're just going to go back up to my island, up to the one patch of ground that I keep clear for my Animal Crossing Nancy Drew projects. It's still set up from Trail of the Twister, where I put out the cornfield and the wind turbine. And then we're just going to keep destroying that area, and we're going to do lots of terraforming, as well as putting in a bridge and some paths and some trees and some items. I would really love to make this a more permanent feature on my island, and maybe once I've finished my Animal Crossing Nancy Drew series, I will, you know, convert this space into a whole garden and actually create the whole thing, because, like, I don't know, it doesn't seem that hard. I've seen a couple of other people who have done Nancy Drew themed islands or sections on their islands, and I really love that. Who knows, I might get to that one day, but I did also have to destroy a huge chunk of my island just to get this one bridge in, so who knows. I could talk for approximately an entire century on the Nancy Drew soundtracks. I won't, not today at least, but I would just like to say that the music in this game is beyond incredible. Kevin Menthe did such an incredible job, and he really could have gone with a cheesy route and just done one-dimensional and flat, but he didn't. Every single track is just incredible, whether you've got spooky ambient or percussive noises, or traditional woodwind and string instruments, or you're going to the modern section, which is obviously like pop. It is just so incredibly done, and it doesn't feel cheap or fake or useless. It fits the game so well and really emphasizes that divide between the ryokan and the rest of the city. And it is a shame that Kevin Menthe only did the first 25 games, because he did such a good job. And like, obviously I love what Thomas Regin did, and I really like that he, you know, did the rest of the series up until we got Midnight in Salem, but I think it's just one of those things, like the music from the series and the whole series in itself, I think it's just one of those things where no amount of it is ever going to feel like enough, because you can't have too much of a good thing, right? Like, it's really a shame because we're all just left wanting more, but like, we're so lucky to have gotten 32 incredible games, and even if it does look like it's kind of come to an end, which is obviously really sad, but I'm just so grateful that we got such an incredible series for so long. And hopefully this isn't the end. I'm really holding on to hope that we're going to have a 34th game, even if it doesn't look super likely, but I'm just going to cling to what I've got. So that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to use any of my designs, including Nancy's Horse Chef, I will leave my creator code in the description. And if you would like to see anything else from me about my Animal Crossing Nancy Drew series, just let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.